My baby dolls, we're back again for another episode of Genesis. And as always, I am your host, Ian Kahanowitz, and today we got a great guest on the show. She knocked it out of the park. Well, she actually pitched it out of the park. Back in the late 90s into early 2000s, she has just come out with a book called Making My Pitch, a women's baseball odyssey. Her name is Ila Jane Borders, and we're going to get to her and a fantastic book in just a minute. But you are listening to the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network with the Zigzag Man, Ralph Tycho. And, of course, we have authors like Peter Golenbach and Hal Bach and George W. Case, who was the president of SABR from 1998 through 2003. They got their own shows. We got Robbie Rabinovitz, who was Jackie Robinson's pen pal doing Dodger baseball, and you got me with the Zigzag Man on Oakland A's baseball, Giants baseball, that's San Francisco and New York, and of course I'm on Dave Nemec's old-time baseball and trivia with both Dave Nemec and SABR historian Alan Blumkin. And today we have a special show. Most of you know I have always advocated for women in baseball, and I have my own webpage, which is on Facebook, the history of women in baseball, and folks like Dr. Leslie Heffy, who has been instrumental in advocating as a director for SABR. She had written and edited the Encyclopedia of Women and Baseball, which I keep by my side every day because I have to go in, find out who I'm going to post about, and do some research before I look stupid and make mistakes. So this book stays on my side as well as so many other great books, but Women in Baseball is synonymous, and unfortunately, the stuff that Ila had to go through and what women are still going through is tragic because if you read Professor Deborah Shattuck's book, The Bloomer Girls, and she helped me with this site as well, you will learn that baseball was created gender neutral. It was created not for men only, but for women and men. And we'll get into Ila and talk about that with her. But it is surely an honor to have her on the show. And let me give you a little synopsis, folks, on her book, because it is a very powerful book. It is a baseball book, but she talks about her life story, and she also talks about so many events that helped shape who she is, and she's still very young at 42. I believe she turned 42 February 18th, if my memory serves me correct. But her book, Making My Pitch, tells the story of Ila Jane Borders, who, despite formidable obstacles, became a Little League prodigy, MVP of her otherwise all-male middle school and high school teams, the first woman awarded a baseball scholarship. Now, that's very important because we're going to talk about Ila and the distinction between why girls are going more into softball rather than go for the scholarships that she had received 20-something years ago, and the first to pitch and win a complete men's collegiate game. And Mike Veck, who was the son of renowned owner Bill Veck, who had a propensity for marketing. Like, I couldn't believe he had a midget come up at the plate. He had a whole disco blowing up night back in 1980, and his father Bill Veck was just one of those owners that liked to do stuff to get people into the park. Signed Borders in May 1997 to pitch for his St. Paul Saints of the Independent Northern League up in Minnesota. And she had to travel from California to Minnesota. We'll talk about that and the climate. I don't think she was prepared for Minnesota. She accomplished what no woman had done since the Negro Leagues era, and that was play men's professional baseball. Borders played 4 professional seasons, and in 1998 became the first woman in the modern era to win a professional ball game. And without any further ado, welcome to the show, Ila.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, I'm excited. You're excited. I'm excited. I've been a fan
Hey.
for a long. I've been a fan for a long time. But now that I've read your story, there's a thing that comes up in my head. When President Calvin Coolidge was president back in 1924, a reporter asked him, "What is the most important trait that someone must possess to succeed in life? Wouldn't it be education, Mr. President?" And he said to this reporter, and it was a woman reporter, he said, "No, perseverance is the most important trait that a person has. I know a lot of educational idiots. You have
I couldn't
personified."
agree more.
Yeah, your story is a constant struggle. Let's see how you defined your own perseverance here.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm actually in LA right now. I just got into town. I'm going to be speaking to some high schoolers, junior and seniors, and it's pretty much that. There's a lot of things, but the biggest thing is being resilient and keep on going when everybody's kind of pushing you down, and that's what I'm hoping this book can show to people. Is it is a baseball book like you were saying, but it shows a lot of other things and how to get through them.
And Ila, you weren't just pushed around, if I may mention some of the things you were spit at, thrown things at, cursed at, even by Christian high school coaches, for God's sakes. Almost a rape attempt, men leaving condoms in the mail for you, seeing wild orgies in the locker room, stuff that a young person would be more shy away from or get scared. But why did you stick with it throughout all that?
It's just a love for the game, and I learned a very early age that humor gets you through a bunch of things. And I kind of knew my dad prepared me and said, "Hey, if you're going to go through this, these are some of the things that you are going to see." So when some of those happened, I wasn't as surprised, and I try to tell people that it's mostly I was 21 at the time. So I try to tell them, don't compare me to a 40-year-old. Try to compare me to, being 21 years old and seeing this. But my dad prepared me really well, and that started at a young age.
Now, your dad played minor league ball, if I'm not mistaken, in the Los Angeles Dodgers minor league system.
Yeah, and I was kind of born on a baseball field, so he started me out real early. He put me in some defense classes. He, oh my goodness, I played, little league ball. I played junior ball. I played 4 years of varsity ball. So I had a lot of experience dealing with, angry parents at the time. Some of the boys in high school weren't, the greatest with me playing at first. And so all those little circumstances when I was younger kind of led up to when I was older, how to tackle those certain situations. And, I read a lot of Jackie Robinson's books too. And, how did he handle his certain situations? And that gave me a lot of good advice.
Now, let me ask you this. With Jackie Robinson, and we all know what he went through, and I'm honored to speak to Rob Ravinovitz. I don't know if you know his story. He was the pen pal from Wisconsin. He grew up in Sheboygan, and he wrote Jackie Robinson. They became lifelong friends, a white Jewish boy, African American. And when Jackie came into the league, Hank Greenberg was a Jew and had to play with such conditions like you and Jackie had to play. They had an exhibition game, and Jackie had a hit, and at first base, he gave Jackie some advice. Did you have anybody like that to prepare you for the kind of bombardment and give you some encouragement?
No, that was the tough thing about it, and that's why I seeked out those books. My dad can tell me, things that I would see, but, he was a male athlete around male athletes. So he prepared me as much as he could. And I think the biggest thing that helped me out is, like I said, I just started at a young age and I saw it. And I had people like Mike Veck he said, hey, be prepared for this, be prepared for that. And I was like, oh, Mike, I've already been through that and more. So it was kind of just rolling with the punches. Sometimes I made the correct choice. Sometimes I made, not the correct choice. And then learning from that and going forward and doing the best that I possibly could.
Now, at 5 years old, growing up, what made me shocking to read your book is that at intervals you just want to cry. One of them is when your grandmother accidentally drowns in the swimming pool at the age of 49. I mean, that's 2 years away from when I'm going to be 49. Explain how you remember that.
Oh, yeah, that's one of the big reasons why I became a firefighter paramedic, one of the many. But, yeah, I was 5 years old and swimming in the pool with her, and we bumped into each other. My mom wasn't there, and, it was just her and I, and you just started to learn how to swim, but she still wasn't good yet. And she went to the bottom of the pool when we bumped into each other, and I could still, remember, even though I was 5, remember looking at her trying to pull her out from the bottom of the pool, and I just wasn't strong enough to pull her out. And I can go on and on, but you see the face, you see your loved one, you know that you created it by bumping into each other, and then you're trying to save them, and you come up short, and it's just a horrible, horrible feeling. I can't even describe it. And the only thing that I can do is, when I do something now, it's like, hey, will my grandmother, be proud of me? 'Cause she was almost like my mom growing up. There's tons of pictures of her and I climbing the trees and playing with the bugs. And she was very much an outdoors lady and very hands-on with showing me things. And so that greatly, greatly affected me.
And as you were growing up, at 5 years old and a little bit later, what started the love for baseball?
People have been asking me that, and I'm like, gosh, I can't describe it. I love being outdoors. I love the smell of fresh cut grass. I love the dirt. I love competing. I love pitching. I was good at it. And there's nothing like standing on the mound and working as hard as you possibly can, and going against the best of the best and winning that battle. There's just something about competition and giving your all and being outside, and that's what drew me in. Obviously, my dad played, and I told him that, I wanted to play, and he taught me a lot, but he never pushed me. He prepared me, but he never really pushed me.
My thing is this. There was one time, I think you were 11 years old, and you were getting frustrated. You couldn't hit the home run. You were getting real frustrated. And he screamed at you saying, get back in the box.
Yeah, and that's, when you look at it at that time, gosh, if you did that in this day and age, oh my goodness.
Go to jail.
You
go to jail.
Yeah. But that's what I try to tell you. He did a lot of things that weren't the greatest, but he was 20 years old when he had me. But now, looking back upon it, I am so grateful that he did that to me. It taught me real life. I didn't hit real life. I didn't hit professional baseball and then go, oh my gosh, people are yelling at me, people are spitting at me. I was completely prepared for it because of how my dad taught me. So I'm extremely grateful for how he raised me, even though at that time it was extremely difficult.
Yeah, and you know what? Because I had a deadbeat dad growing up. I had to do everything pretty much myself until I met my wife and her family in 1995. I was 25 years old, and I came from a very, very volatile family like yours. And I still don't talk to my father after, 32 years. He never gave me a cent of child support, and I had to go through similar things. Forgiveness was one of them, which I found in your book. Now, I implore people to read this book, but your dad was some, contradictions at home. He was like the authoritarian and stuff. But yet when people were like, throwing things and yelling and screaming things. She's like, Ila, just walk away. He was very passive.
Right, right. And I had that my entire life, so I had a lot of growing up to do. Yeah, don't do this, but I'm going to do it. Yeah, I could say that throughout my entire life. Don't drink, but I'm going to drink. Don't smoke, but I'm going to smoke. Don't lash out and fight and respond, turn the other cheek, but he didn't. So I've learned a lot by his mistakes too on what to do and what not to do. I'm very in tune with trying to learn from other people.
And it's very important because your name Ila means I believe an island. Am I
Island
correct?
dweller, yeah, kind of
Island
fit.
dweller. Now, throughout this whole thing, including your sexual orientation, growing up and realizing, hey, something, religion is showing me one thing, but I'm feeling another, seeing what's in the house, each one of us who are, grow up in similar situations feel like an island to themselves. You've just hit on a point that you have to learn from others. How did you talk yourself into doing that?
I just felt like a kid that was just searching. I was doing everything that I possibly could to get information. I still kind of do that with things. When I started out in pro ball, I knew that I needed Jackie Robinson. I needed to talk to somebody that obviously didn't go through, what he did as far as the magnitude playing Major League Baseball, but there are a lot of similarities that we went through, and I was like, how did he handle them? And I try to do that now, being a firefighter paramedic, and then, possibly getting back into baseball. I seek out people who have gone through other things or have more wisdom than me, see, what mistakes they made or the correct decisions that they made. Mike taught me a lot, Mike Veck, about humor. I won a lot of battles in professional baseball with humor. So there's just, it's helped me out throughout life immensely by seeking people out and learning from their mistakes.
And something, Ila, you make a very interesting comparison between you and Jackie Robinson. Now, we all know in the beginning, Brian Trickey told Jackie, you're going to hear, this, that, and the other, do not fight back. But 2 years later, he gave Jackie the go-ahead. You don't have to deal with this crap anymore. Because Jackie's first persona was a fighter. And even after baseball, he was a huge part of the civil rights movement. Now, you're not as volatile or as vocal, at least by your book. I'm not there 24 hours when you get angry. But after all this time, after 20 years, you've just written this book. Aren't you now, in a sense, doing a kind of movement for women by doing this book?
I hope so. I hope it's for everybody. That's what I'm really trying to do with this book. Even though I've been out of the spotlight for 20 years, I've always been coaching. And what I've been coaching has mostly been men, collegiate players or kids. Anytime I do a baseball clinic, I never had a girl. It's always been, boys. And then, so now with this book, I'm trying to get more girls, involved in baseball, more getting involved in baseball, and then also tell them, you don't have to get pushed into softball. There are other avenues out there. I got a baseball scholarship. I tell that to people that I meet, and they're like, oh my gosh, I never knew that. I tell them, it's going to take hard work, but it's not going to be handed to you, but it is possible. You don't have to go to softball to get a scholarship. And, it's just like I said, I'm doing baseball clinics now. I'm trying to get more involved with getting women into baseball, but also trying to get in touch with those people that have lost a loved one. I lost my loved one to a drunk driver, and I was in a very, very dark depression, and I got through that barely. But it's reaching out to people like that reaching out to people who come from an abusive home, how to get through that. There's a lot of things I'm hoping that with that book I can reach out to people.
You know, it's you lost your wife, if I may call it that. They say partner and all this other stuff. But I was watching the OC, Inside the OC, with the Rick Rife and you, and you mentioned she was your wife. That was way after baseball, because it's such a paradox where now you're in baseball. You're going through, the baseball leagues, and you have to hide the fact on who you are, who you like. You get out of baseball, and now you can really be Ila Borders.
Right, and that's why I kind of disappeared and ultimately retired. I wasn't struggling just with that. It's also struggling with, since I was a young kid growing up, I was told that was just evil. And so I'm thinking the entire time I'm this evil person, and I'm struggling with being raised in a Christian household where I was told, I'm pretty much going to go to hell for thinking and feeling this way, and struggling with those feelings of, oh my God, I'm going to hell, and how do I change this? And then trying to change it and working through that. And then, dealing with the pressures of baseball. And the game saved me. It really did. I love it more than anything. But at the very end, I was like, okay, I'm tired of lying. I'm tired of hiding. I'm tired of this. I don't feel good as a person. And it started to affect my play. And so I retired. But even when I retired, I still had to deal with who I was and all those feelings.
Your mom was Roman Catholic, and mentioned in your book, your dad came from also a very volatile family, but it was your grandmother who showed him the kind of love that you could have. Now, I converted from Roman Catholicism in 2000. I was Jewish previously, and I said, well, it really doesn't matter. Jesus was a Jew. I said to a lot of people, I said, my own religion that I grew up with me scorns me now, that I'm a traitor, and, I'm this, and I've heard it. My own mother wanted to disown me, and pissed off, I never told my grandmother. And I was the first one to ever get married out of the faith, out of 460 years, to a Roman Catholic. So, again, I was the black sheep.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. That's why your story is so intriguing. It's so intriguing. But this is what I want to say. I went out. I became a Eucharistic minister. I became a lector, and I became a teacher to all converts. But I became on my parish council in a small town, and every time they voted to go, protest an abortion clinic, I was the only one who dissented, or not to have gays recognize gay marriages and not allow them to. Well, I said, what are you people crazy? I said, if God is all merciful and forgiving and all this, I said, being gay is not a sickness. It's not a thing that you're making, that it's evil. It's something that is natural, and when you folks come into the 21st century, you'll let me speak about these things in the church. They still haven't let me speak about it. I still have to speak what they want. But let me ask you this: we see how strict that kind of code is that the church teaches, but yet you make a distinction between faith and bureaucracy amongst the church. How do you reconcile that? Because you're a very, very spiritual person. Pray to God and everything else.
I just heard that last spiritual person.
Spiritual person, and you're part of the Christian faith, which frowns upon being.
Yeah, I picked a double whammy. I call it.
You did. You really did.
There was that, and then, people are like, oh, you can't be Christian and gay, and then even, I would get it from my gay friends. They're like, well, you can't be Christian because they hate us and they treat us horribly. I'm like, oh, my goodness. It was very difficult, and I actually still go through that, where I have friends, and they say the same thing to me, because I do believe, I am a Christian, and I try to just look at, I'm more about grace and the New Testament and how, Jesus conducted his life and how he treated people. And anytime you start judging somebody else, I think that gets you in trouble. And I try not to do that to anybody else. And I do believe, I am a Christian. I do believe in that. I just don't believe in the strict things that you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to be this person. It doesn't say that in the Bible whatsoever. And that's why I'm like, God, I wonder why people are so against Christianity, because to me it is a God that pretty much says, I accept you any way you come and I love you. How would you not want to gravitate towards that? And it's just too bad that they don't talk about a God like that, the one that, I believe in, I've read about throughout the Bible.
And you know something? It's a similar thing to baseball. Christianity and baseball have walked the same path, except Christianity's been around about 2,000 years longer. Well, 1,900, maybe 1,800 years longer. But when you think about it, it's the bureaucracy that made these rules, not God. And the same goes with baseball. It was intended to be gender neutral. It was bureaucracy. It was the late 1880s. It was men who said women shouldn't play baseball. So there's a dichotomy between the both of them. You're caught up in both of them because, number one, you're a Christian and you're gay, and two, you are a woman trying to play in a purported male-dominated sport.
Yeah, I didn't. The toughest avenue. And you're right. You mentioned Deborah Shattuck in her book, and I was able to do a speaking engagement with her. And wow, it was very enlightening about everything. But yeah, it's so weird how the game was made for men and women, and how I don't remember the name, but how all these things were put on women to kind of get them out of baseball. And it was very, very interesting, her story and her book.
Yeah, and I had Deborah on my show last week. Her show will be published in a while. And she, like I said to you in the beginning, when we came on the show, Deb helps me along with Perry Barber and Dr. Kat Williams and Dr. Leslie Heffey, and they help administer my site. We look for anyone who comes in to try to haggle, or because just like you receive that stuff, I receive. 40,000 people follow me on Facebook. Every day I receive something. Why do you have a historical Negro League? Why are you vouching? Why do you have a women's baseball? They shouldn't be playing baseball. They should be. And every day, in fact, 2 years ago, I wrote an umpire articles, and if you Google it, you'll be able to see only 2 parts were published. It was in the third part, I go in and I lambast Major League Baseball for not advancing women to a level. Pam Postuma was a clear case of discrimination. She gets up to that point, and then they just do away. They don't elevate. And the same thing happened to what's her name, Cortesia, in 2007.
Yeah.
The same thing happens. They push them through the minors. You're getting into your foot's right into the door of Major League Baseball, and they shut the door. Now, you bring up a very interesting subject, something I wrote in this article, and I was fired. I was fired from doing it, and they never published it. I still have the writings. One day I'll publish it. But I said that look at other countries, Cuba,
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. I've been holding my tongue about
Dead.
Go on. I can't wait to hear what you have to say.
I said, well, look at other countries. Cuba. Well, we got an umpire down there who's probably ranked 15th out of 75. It's not a random number.
I don't get it. I think I will give Major League Baseball credit. I really think they're trying to change. You have so many people now, like Billy Beane, Tyrone Brooks, that are trying to diversify it, inclusion. They are really working hard to bring women in baseball and do that. So I think the time right now is fantastic. In the past, have they done that? You bet. And we'll see what happens. But I really think they're on board. But we are so behind. Japan, they started their women's program. I mean, they have women's high school. They play college. They play, beyond that. They just won the entire world. I don't know if it's called the World Cup, but the World Nationals for women's baseball. They have a way to go about it, a straight path. Canada's the same way. I have great friends over there that they want to share their information on how they got women's baseball going over there. Australia. So I have tons of friends in Japan, Canada, Australia, and they're doing it right. They are so way ahead of us on getting women involved in baseball. And the only thing I can say is right now in the United States, I have limited knowledge with this, but you see a lot of individual people working and making great strides, but we're not coming together as a team. We need to take everybody's strengths, everybody that's doing something for women in baseball in the United States, and combine that effort and not be so worried about being the first or the person that put it together, but taking everybody and saying, let's grow this, let's put this together.
And I'm sure because you're friends with a lot of them, the International Women's Baseball, Oxford, they are the organization that I think that if they get enough members and enough support, that will be your organized, place to start that can have a voice for these women.
Yeah, we have so many talented people. You were talking about Cat Williams. You have, maybe Maybelle Blair, who played in a league of their own. You have me. I played men's professional baseball. I never played with women. I have a different perspective. You have Justine Siegel, who has helped out. You have USA Baseball. You have Major League Baseball now with the Trailblazer Series. You have all these smart people, and you have all these other groups, Florida, California, everywhere. It's right there. We just need to put something together, and that's a tough task, but I think it's coming.
Well, let me ask you this, if you speak to these ladies, because a lot of them, Maybelle, I'm supposed to be meeting next Monday. They're up here in Fenway Park. They're going to have the league play, so I'm more or less, I'm going to go visit. I've been lobbying my family, my two twin sons who are going to be 10 this year, to go. I said, "Do you like women baseball? Come on, let's go." My wife and take the car up to Fenway and see, Carol Sheldon and Maybelle Blair and a couple of others are going to be there.
Watch out for her bat.
Yeah. How old is she?
She'll make you. Yeah, and she is tough as nails, and she will have you laughing every second. She's a funny lady.
I speak to her on Facebook, and of course, Dr. Cat Williams is going to be on my show in a few weeks. I've been trying to get the word out on women baseball. Again, we live in a different society than when you grew up and when you played ball in the 1990s. Now, no one really wants to sit down, read a whole book, but that's why I have these shows, so that people can get interested in making my pitch, and actually reading through a complete book rather than just looking at snippets on the internet.
Right.
What my groups do is teach every day, and I usually put one person. Today I put you in my groups, and a lot of people like the love and all this, and every day I put another baseball card about women out there. I know.
Well, thank you to you for doing that. We need more people like that, and I'm extremely grateful for you doing that.
It's important because women are part of this history. You are history here. When you were with the Saints, when you were with the Gophers, when you went up to Thunder Bay, you've been all over. You've been everywhere, and it's important that I understand why you stayed away for so long. I know you had issues to conquer and the death of your wife, and then moving from town to town. Now you're up in Oregon and stuff like that. But now 2017 on forward, will we be seeing more of you? I mean, you're on this whirlwind tour right now.
Yeah, I think you're going to be hearing a lot of announcements soon. All good stuff, but I think for the next year and a half, some good stuff's going to be coming our way, and I'm excited for it, the future. I think there's going to be some big changes, and I plan to get out there and do as much as I possibly can.
And how was working with Jean Ardell? Because she's in my groups too. And
oh my God, she is brilliant. I just go around talking about her.
Yeah.
You know what she was great about is she's extremely intelligent. And when she writes a book, you know, half the words I have to look up, you know. So the big thing with this is, you know, I'm not a professional writer. I'm not a Michael Conley or anything like that. But I try to be as open and as honest as possible. I wanted somebody to be done with the book and go, oh, my gosh, I feel like I know Ila. It's not just, you know, regurgitating the baseball stuff that I went through and accomplished. It was like, no, I wanted to tell people who I was. And she just helped me put it together so well to have my voice in there. And it was definitely a 50-50 project putting that book together on how we wanted to do that. So she is has tons of knowledge about women in baseball too, and then at least even in her life on what she's accomplished in baseball.
Now, she wanted to write your story long ago, like around 2001 and 2, and it just didn't get done until now. And I know why, the personal, stuff that happened and, the struggles you've had to go through.
Yeah, nobody knew me. I didn't let anybody in. And she didn't even know. She was a close friend, and I didn't let her in. And like I said, I didn't want it just about baseball. I wanted it to be a well-rounded book about struggles, because when another girl or when they get to Major League Baseball, I'm telling you, they're going to go through a lot of the similar things that I went through. And it's kind of like, you know, I read Jackie Robinson's book to kind of give me some ideas on how to get through certain situations. Maybe, you know, the next girl that's going to finally make it to the Major League level can read it and say, oh, okay, this is how Ila acted. This is what she did. This is a good thing she did. This is a bad thing she did. And, go from there, kind of like what I was doing.
Well, my question to you is, why do you think American society pushes these girls into softball rather than baseball, especially when softball wasn't created for about another 80 years after baseball?
I don't know. I'm still asking myself that. Maybe because at least right now, people know the name Jenny Finch because her face is everywhere. I think girls, by talking to them, I can say this, they play baseball, and then all the other girls, their friends, start to go into softball when they turn 12 or 13, kind of when Little League's done. And then they kind of just transition into it. But you hear them, they're like, we just want to play baseball. We want to play baseball with our friends, and all of our friends have to go into softball, so we follow. I just never had that because it wasn't a social thing for me. It was, I loved the game, and I wanted to play baseball, and I wanted to pitch, and that wasn't available in softball. But the best thing I could say is people like you putting it out there, trying to create more ways for girls to play baseball. That's what the Japanese have done. That's what Canada and Australia have done. And the more opportunities we can create, the better that we're going to grow the sport.
And you know what's interesting, Ila? Baseball is no longer the American pastime. And so this level now of trying to get baseball infused into girls and, of course, men, baseball now is pretty much an imported sport. There's only 8% of African Americans playing the sport in Major League Baseball, which would break Jackie Robinson's heart if he was still alive. It's no longer the television media buster where all the sponsors want to go now. It's basically cable TV. Basketball, football have eclipsed it in this country. Do you think the concerted efforts on trying to get women into baseball, that this kind of America's, the pastime is past us, do you think that's going to have an effect on it?
Oh, gosh, I don't think so. I think the greatest effect is little things like that episode on Pitch. You know, I try to think of when Ellen came out. You know, it was a big thing when she came out. And then you have Will and Grace, you know, gosh, I'm going to be missing some things. And then you know, the norms kind of started to change where people were more open because they're like, oh my gosh, this is Ellen. Ellen's gay? Melissa Etheridge is gay? Will and Grace? Oh my gosh. You know, now we've got that Family Matters that people are watching it all the time. So I think it's going to take stuff like that, you know, more of a League of Their Own movies. It's going to take, you know, Pitch. It lasted one season, but it got that out there, that women playing Major League Baseball. And I think more and more ESPN, Hollywood, we can get it out there seeing women in that role. I mean, now it's fantastic. You see Superwoman. You know, that wasn't really available when I was growing up. So I think as soon as we start changing those roles, and how we view women in baseball and women in general, which, like I said, right now, I really think it's the time. We will get there.
Let me ask you this. If your career was blossoming now, you know, rather than the mid-'90s, do you think you would have had more opportunities? The game is so much different now.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. But, you know, maybe my opportunity, yes, I would say that. But maybe my opportunities now are going to pop up in a different way. The thing is playing with the guys and playing at that level has given me a lot of experience and a lot of great knowledge. And maybe I can use that for Major League Baseball in a different way. So, like I said, we'll see what the future brings. But it's exciting times right now, but we still have a long ways to go.
And how are you doing both as a firefighter? Because, again, you chose something that was, quote unquote, a male-dominated profession, and you later became a paramedic. Do you still on plan on doing that, or do you see yourself more getting more back into the baseball,
Yeah, so right now I work as a firefighter paramedic, and the nice thing is it gives me a lot of time. You know, we work 56 hours a week, but we work 24-hour shifts and we're off for 48. So I think that's going to give me some time to hopefully transition back into baseball and, you know, probably start out slow and start out at the bottom of the ranks and move my way up and get back into it. So I think it's coming. It's just, you know, doing a little transition right now, going from being a firefighter paramedic and then trying to get back into ball.
Do you see yourself as an educator, or do you see yourself as a coach? Do you see yourself as a hitting instructor? What do you see yourself as a role as of now?
I see a bunch of things. I can't say anything right now. But the big thing is, you know, I love the game. I love talking with people. I love coaching. I like building relationships. I can talk baseball all day. And because I was 5'9", you know, 140, I had to use every little part of my body to throw the ball 83 miles per hour. When you're a guy, you know, or 6 foot, 200 pounds, or 6 foot and above and over that, you could kind of get away with some things. So my mechanics are really sound. I'm really aware of how to pitch. I'm aware of what to look for in hitters and their weaknesses. I have a couple of things I need to work on as far as middle infielders, how to, you know, judge them and evaluate them. So right now what I'm working on is just, like I said, get back into the game, working on evaluating players, evaluating the game, talking the correct lingo type stuff, and making those contacts again. And we'll see where it goes from there.
And last question, and then what I'm going to do is end the show, and then I'll talk to you for about a minute after the show, after I end the show. Let me ask you this, because I'm like, you had a screwball, but yet you had such a hard time perfecting the split-fingered fastball.
It kind of didn't go with how I threw, though. I would probably, if I went back, I would work more on a slider. I think what held me back is I didn't have a really good slider. And, you know, I had a really good two-seam fastball that sunk and moved late. And then my four-seamer was below par because, you know, it's 80 to 83, but I could spot it. And then I had a really good screwball that kind of looked like a straight change, but it would work as a screwball to a right-hander. And then what got me in trouble is when the left-hander would get up. My cut fastball and slider, I would say, was a little below par. I needed to get that. I would need to get tighter spin on that.
Hey, you know, I mean, you did a fantastic job. You won 2 games, I believe, in the minors, and you were there for 4 years, really, until you decided to retire. But I hope you had a good time today, Ila. Am I forgetting anything that maybe you want to tell the folks at home, maybe besides just that we could get your book at Amazon and any other place, really? But is there something?
Yeah, I have. No, I have a website. It's called makingmypitch.com. And I try to get people. I have little kids. I have adults. I have people that, you know, shoot me an email. And I always try to respond back, you know, good or bad, love the book, didn't love the book. If you have a daughter that's struggling with playing ball, send an email. There's even guys that will say, hey, this is what's going on with my pitch. You know, can I have some pointers? I try to be available as much as I can for people, and I'm extremely grateful for the support. And like I said, we'll see what the future brings. But I think it's really good times right now.
It is good times, and I love speaking to everybody who is a part of advancing women in baseball, just as they are other folks who have been discriminated about the sport, who still has a black mark after all these years. And still needs some repairing. Hang the line. This is how I end the show. Folks, I've had a great time with Ila today. You know, Ila is definitely a role model, not for just baseball, but for getting through problems. And we've all had problems no matter what you're going through. Even if you don't like baseball, this is a book to read. And because this is a book that shows true strength, true perseverance, and a faith that just would not die. As always, I'm Ian Kahanowitz. Thank you, Ila. And in the immortal words of Edward R. Murrow, good night, folks. Good luck. We'll see you next time.